I would think she has shown quite a few narcissistic tendencies in the past, particularly in things like the Oprah Winfrey interview. I think there was a lot of narcissism in that.
What did you make about the claims about Meghan? I mean, start with psycho moments. I mean, these are all allegations. Allegedly over the phone, treated people like um, chewed people up in person. What was kind of your reaction to these allegations, Hugo?
Well, I'm afraid I'm not surprised by these allegations because even when she was at Windsor, I remember, hearing from very good sources that there was trouble. There was a time when she was very rude to one of the under gardeners at Windsor when they were at Frogmore Cottage, and the head gardener went to complain to the Queen, and the Queen went down and ticked her off because the Queen obviously didn't like people being rude to staff. So, having heard that story, none of these other stories surprise me. She probably is not very good with staff or with people that she's employing or people that she's getting flowers from and things like that. It's just very unattractive because you should always be very polite to people who work for you and people that you deal with over the telephone, because otherwise they're going to get very put out, and they're going to, when things start going wrong, they'll be happy to answer questions by the media, I guess. Well, I think probably quite a lot of actresses have a narcissistic side to them. Yes, I agree with you. Of course, it can be very stressful leading up to a wedding, but once again, this is when your true character comes out. We can all be very polite. When things are going well, it's when we're under stress that you see people getting annoyed and getting aggressive and so forth. So once again, I'm afraid it doesn't surprise me. I would think she has shown quite a few narcissistic tendencies in the past, particularly in things like the Oprah Winfrey interview. I think there was a lot of narcissism in that. So once again, I'm not surprised, I'm afraid. It's just not very attractive, not a very attractive characteristic.
When the bullying allegations against Meghan Markle first surfaced, they were quickly dismissed by her supporters as palace spin, sexism, or simply an attempt to smear a powerful woman. But now, with more insiders speaking up and the public revisiting her infamous Oprah interview, people are starting to say what many were already thinking. This isn't surprising. You could see the narcissism from the start. Let's be honest. When Meghan sat down with Oprah in 2021, it wasn't just a bombshell. It was a full-blown media blitz. The tears, the shocking claims, the dramatic pauses, and most notably, the way she positioned herself as the ultimate victim of the royal machine. But to some viewers, and many in the media, it felt calculated, curated, and yes, narcissistic. During that interview, Meghan claimed she was silenced, that she wasn't protected, that no one helped her, all while ignoring the immense privilege, global platform, and influence she was handed the moment she married into the monarchy. Now fast forward, several former palace aides have come forward accusing Meghan of creating a toxic work environment.
Well, I mean, screaming at somebody for 30 minutes does sound a slight exaggeration because, that requires quite a lot of effort, doesn't it? But let's assume that it was just a little bit less than that. But once again, if you're working with a florist and you're employing them, and something goes wrong, that you can reply perfectly politely, and you can express your annoyance at what's so supposedly gone wrong without shouting at them. And I think this particular florist, when I read the article, was saying that even though they very much liked having the custom of somebody like Meghan Markle, it was all too much and just not going to deal with her anymore. And so that shows how serious it is. I think this is a very well researched article, by the way, and something that one should take very seriously. And it comes in response, of course, to her team. That if you join the royal family, you're there to serve, and it's not all a great laugh a minute. I mean, they have a very, very tight program and tight schedules and things. And the sad thing is that they could have been absolutely amazing as a sort of new, fresh kind of pair in the royal family. And I think that trip to Australia that they did was very successful. The African trip rather less so. But I always felt that she probably did have a plan that by marrying Prince Harry, she gets the status, and then at some point they can depart and commercialize that. Whether that's going to, in the long run, last forever.
Saying they were reduced to tears, bullied, and pushed out of their roles under her direction. Some claimed it was emotional cruelty. Others said they were broken. And suddenly, the narrative begins to shift. People are starting to ask, was that Oprah interview a carefully orchestrated PR move? Was Meghan playing the long game, turning herself into the hero of her own story while quietly stepping on everyone who didn't fit her version of reality? And here's where it gets even more telling. Rather than address the narcissistic behavior often includes a victim complex, even when the facts don't align, an inability to accept criticism, a need to control the narrative at all costs, and using emotional appeals to manipulate perception. All of that was on display in the Oprah interview.
And depressed by it because it's not an attractive thing to have said. It seems that he's going to go to Lesotho without her. I think that's what I was.
Meghan's point of view. What's that? Do you want to expand a little bit more on
Job?
And now, the palace staff who lived and worked under Meghan are backing that up with first-hand experience. This doesn't mean Meghan never faced racism or mistreatment. That's real and should be taken seriously. But it also doesn't mean she's above reproach. Two things can be true at the same time. Meghan may have been mistreated by the press and still mistreated others behind closed doors. And that's what makes the story so explosive. People who once defended her are now asking hard questions. Was it all an act? Is the woman who talked about kindness, empathy, and healing?
There are people who still think that. I personally don't, but it's just that I don't like the way things have turned out. I don't like the way, that they attacked the royal family. All the sort of if you start casting sort of javelins at people in public, you're going to get a reaction. Again, I can only tell you what I think, which is that I think a lot of their popularity has diminished as a result of the book Spare and some of the recent interviews and things, because I think that most reasonable people, and like somebody in a middle America, is going to think actually doesn't really like the idea of somebody being rude about his father in public. You just don't need to do that. These things should be kept private. So they have brought a lot of this trouble on themselves by these different things. And I suppose the reason that they do them is because they're commercially viable, or seem to be at the time. They get paid a lot of money to do these interviews.
The same person who allegedly humiliated and pushed out her own staff? Whether you believe the palace or not, the patterns are starting to emerge. And they're impossible to ignore. So what do you think? Was Meghan's Oprah interview a cry for help, or a masterclass in self-promotion? Are these bullying claims credible, or just more fuel for a royal takedown? Let us know in the comments below. Don't hold back. Like this video if you believe truth matters more than image. Subscribe for more uncensored takes on royalty, media, and power.